Chair recognizes the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Marshall, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to call upon all members of Congress to stand beside Israel and confront anti-Semitism, ethnic hatred, and prejudice-driven boycotts, whether at home, abroad, and certainly from members of this chamber. We as a country cannot tolerate this behavior, and certainly this chamber has no room for bigotry. Furthermore, I must warn the general public that despite the warranted outcry we saw in response to the representative from Minnesota's irresponsible comments, that this is the new normal for the liberal base in America. To be clear, anti-Semitism has become an all too common occurrence in politics among the Democrat base and the far left, who see Israel as nothing more than an extension of phantom corruption and colonialism. Politicians who appeal this type of ignorance are simply shoring up a new Democratic constituency. That is the ethos that has primed the Minnesota representative's ludicrous and insulting accusation of bought and paid for politicians who stand with Israel. It is that type of loose, cheap, anti-Semitic rhetoric that led to the rise of the Third Reich. It's clear to all of us there are a couple new colleagues across the aisle that need to be reminded. In fact, they need to admit that the brutal regime of Iran continues to be the chief obstacle to peace and security in the Middle East, and thus the root of most all terrorism that threats our homeland. For decades, Iran's funding of terrorism and extremist groups in the region has fueled violence, civil war, and bloodshed. The Iranian parliament literally burned the U.S. flag on their parliament floor and chanted "Death to Israel, death to America" in their streets. At home, all Americans must oppose the radical and xenophobic boycott, divestment, and sanctions movements which are promulgated by the left. This BDS campaign is peddled by intellectually dishonest anti-Semites whose sole purpose is to attack Israel, attempting to delegitimize and isolate it from the rest of the world. Any member of this congressional body with ties to the BDS movement should renounce them immediately. We must hold our elected officials accountable, whether on Twitter, the halls of Congress, or discussing insinuations and bigotry must be condemned in all forms. Those who continue the use of anti-Semitic rhetoric should be held accountable for their actions. The Democrats should hold the high standards and the high bar that the Republican leader has taken when it comes to committee assignments to those who make bigoted remarks. America must continue to stand together in support of Israel and support of peace in the Middle East and the world. We must build upon our unbreakable alliance with Israel and overcome the challenges that become with building a better, safer world. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.